Hello and welcome to the Crypto Masters Podcast, helping the general public to master an understanding of crypto assets. My name is Brian McCoy.
My name is Ross Eaton.
And we are
the Crypto Masters.
We have an exciting crypto asset. That's the topic of today's episode, Ross. We're going to be discussing a crypto project called Polkadot.
Don't poke me, Brian.
Don't poke the bear. Polkadot, it's a far-reaching project, Ross, with a lot of aspects to it, a lot of tentacles. It's a beast, so this should be fun.
Yes.
As a quick reminder that our goal here at the Crypto Masters is to provide the information about crypto assets to help the public decide if it's something they may want to invest in, to allow them to do their research on their own. The information that we provide doesn't focus on short-term price movements, so this show is not for short-term traders.
And, we provide information for you, the listeners, to make your own investment decisions. I've said it again, or I've said it once and I'll say it again. This is not financial advice. But yeah, we want to give you the power to, make your own decisions, give you prospective stuff for the long term. So yeah, Brian, let's get into it.
Let's jump into it. So listeners of our podcast have heard us talk about scalability and interoperability. They're buzzwords that you hear a lot. And Polkadot, same is true of Polkadot. It attempts to address those two issues as well. Project's somewhat unique, but just so our listeners can put it in a context, on a general level, it does what Ethereum does with smart contracts. It does it very differently, but in the large context, it would go into the same category as Ethereum. It's a platform that to some extent competes with Ethereum. Mm-hmm. Ross, this is a complicated project, but in sort of plain terms, can you tell us about the architecture of Polkadot?
Yeah, for sure. So again, we're, just trying to, especially on a technical perspective, provide just a baseline, basic level of crypto assets. So, we're not going to do a deep dive. I will link, the white paper and light paper, which Polkadot provides, in the description. So yeah, Polkadot, it's basically a network, a collection of separate blockchains, a sharded blockchain, and it allows chains to, process transactions in parallel. And they call them the parachains. But yeah, they connect to a central chain called the relay chain. And that's kind of like the core of Polkadot. And you can build applications on top of that, branch out, connect to different other blockchains, especially smart contract based blockchains. But yeah, it's really, in essence, a platform to build applications on top of, just like Ethereum or Cardano, which we've mentioned previously.
I like what you did with your hands there. For our listeners on the podcast who didn't see it, you sort of, one of the graphics that's used on I think in the light paper for Polkadot, it has a big circle, and then coming off of the circle are the various parachains, and that's sort of one way maybe you can picture it.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Brian.
With the circle being the relay chain.
Yeah. That's that central piece, that relay chain. You'll see that a lot. But yeah, that's the core of Polkadot. It kind of manages the core transactions there, and then things just kind of branch off into those parachains, which I mentioned. Yeah. And then those parachains have bridges to all sorts of other stuff, to DeFi, to oracles, all sorts of data collection there. And just to quickly mention, on Ethereum and Cardano, there's just, they're not called parachains, they're, really dApps, but, there's an unlimited amount. But on Polkadot, it is limited. I think it's roughly 100. Yeah. I think it's something like that.
That's what they've said. They're going to allow sort of 100. I think they lease to the various parachains. Yeah,
which I think is really cool. If you have a dApp, for example, running on your chain, let's say they do something that's sketchy or malicious, you basically have a way to kick them off your island. Yeah. So yeah, that I like that aspect of this ecosystem. So
all right, let's talk a little bit about the security mechanism for Polkadot blockchain. We've talked before about proof of work is one means of providing security for a blockchain. That's what Bitcoin uses. We've talked about proof of stake, like Cardano. We've talked about Ethereum, which currently uses proof of work, but is switching to proof of stake. Polkadot uses something called nominated proof of stake, and it involves validators, nominators, collators, and fishermen. Just kind of interesting. The fishermen. Let me quickly.
I like the fishermen. But
yeah, that's interesting. Let me quickly touch on each of these. So nominators are people who select validators. So and the nominators have to bond some tokens in order to even nominate people or nodes to be validators. And then the nominators, if their validator becomes a validator, they can share in some of the validators' rewards, but then they're also liable for slashing if the validator that they nominated misbehaves. Interesting. So then
you can get slashed.
You can get slashed. Yeah. So that's the nominator. Then the validator, as I mentioned, are nominated by the nominators, and if that node becomes a validator, then they secure the relay chain by staking their dot. Then they validate the proofs from the collators on the parachains and vote on consensus along with other validators. All right, so collators is a node that maintains a parachain by collecting the parachain transactions and producing transition proofs for the validators. And then fishermen are nodes that this is kind of interesting. Their job, I've not heard of this before, their job is to monitor the network and look for validators or collators who are misbehaving. And the fishermen, they have to stake a small amount to do that, but they can be rewarded if they find the bad behavior. So they're sort of, I don't know, like cops or police who...
yeah, that's how I think of it.
Yeah, whose job is to monitor and look for misbehaving validators. So that's kind of it's complicated. Everything's complicated about it.
If I may, Brian, just jump in there. I think that's such a cool aspect of this because, as we all know, people can exploit or manipulate the system in the short term, before updates are allowed to, come in. But these fishermen can see that, oh, you found a way to be a bad person or a bad node. So they can quickly intercept those nodes while Polkadot community makes up.
Well, and I guess then as a validator, someone's watching you. Someone's looking for you. It's just like it's someone thinking of misbehaving. If they know police are nearby, they're not going to do it.
Yeah,
presumably. So yeah, interesting. And then the incentives are there for the fishermen to find the bad actors, but also the validators have to stake dot, which we'll talk about, and they can get it slashed. They're going to lose. It's going to cost them if they misbehave. So the incentives are very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's again, just to touch on it, that's how this Polkadot ecosystem works. That's how nodes are able to basically run and keep it decentralized and keep it up and running. But you're probably asking yourself, okay, this is all great. What's a real world example? And I'm going to touch on Interlay here. So Interlay is a project running on Polkadot, and it has successfully integrated with Bitcoin. Woohoo! And you're probably wondering, okay, what's the point of this anyway? But if you can integrate, Bitcoin with Polkadot, you're almost giving Bitcoin a way to think, a way to be a brain, in a sense. But if you connect Bitcoin with Polkadot, you can link it up to the DeFi space, for instance, and that again allows you to start earning for example interest on your Bitcoin. So very cool. You give something like Bitcoin that's really just a store of value, really some actionable stuff there. Yeah,
it's similar to the wrapped Bitcoin that is used in some of the DeFi projects where you can then get interest on it. It's that is a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Let's talk about the history of Polkadot a little bit. It went live not long ago in May of 2020, but before that, it operated as Kusama, which was sort of a test net, but not really a test net. So Kusama was they call it the Canary Network for Polkadot, and it was an early release, unaudited version of the Polkadot software. It was really a way for them to test it out. But then after the main Polkadot went live, Kusama is still traded. It's a top 50 token, and it's traded separately. And if you just want to invest in Kusama, you could do that. So I thought that was sort of interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I do like the name Kusana, but I think I prefer Polkadot. It's more grabby, more catchy. So one thing too, just to bring it back, I feel like I have to touch on this, Brian. Just another technical aspect of it. But with platforms like this, it's so essential that you get dApps onto it. More transactions, pump your price up, makes this thing more legitimate. So I want to touch on Substrate, which is a framework for building decentralized systems, cryptocurrencies, and that's what Polkadot is built with. But so from a developer's perspective, having an easy to use framework is amazing. Like for example, in cryptocurrency, you have to do writing back to the the ledger. So you don't want to write that from scratch. So if you have a framework that you can just plug in real quick, basically call a function, say, hey, write this data back to this ledger in an easy way, that just makes it so easy for dApp developers to move on to this space. And to kind of relate it back to a real world example, say you are a clothing company, you want to sell t-shirts. So you have a logo that you want to print on t-shirts. Well, are you going to build a warehouse or a t-shirt making machine from scratch? No, you're probably going to either buy something or find a vendor that can do that for you. So that's kind of what a framework does. It's people have already traveled this road. It's just making you easier to walk along it.
Yeah,
so
good.
Hopefully that clears that up a little bit.
Well, I don't know that much about Substrate, but I know it's an important part of what makes up Polkadot. So thanks for that explanation. All right, let's talk about the Polka Dot token. It's called DOT. DOT is the symbol. DOT's used for governance and voting on the protocols. It's also mentioned for the staking, as we mentioned earlier, and it's used for bonding. New parachains are required to use DOT tokens as a type of bond or as a type of rent. And the parachains then lease the connection space to the relay chain, or lease it from the relay chain. Mm-hmm. So the DOT token, as probably everybody knows, has soared up the charts of market cap. It's now number 4 at the time of this podcast. It's on a lot of exchanges, including Binance. But for those countries without access to Binance, like the U.S., it's not as easy. It is listed on Kraken. Mm-hmm. So for Americans who want to buy DOT, that's probably the easiest way to get it. There's a total supply of just over 1 billion DOT, and there are over 950 million in circulation. So not a lot of deflation left.
Yeah, and I've had my eye on this all of or second half of 2020 Polkadot, and it's just every time I check CoinMarketCap, it's just climbing. So yeah, this thing has got some momentum.
Yep.
Yeah, let me talk about some of the projects that are listed on Polkadot. So there's Edgeware. That's a smart contract platform. I'm going to butcher some of these names, so just be prepared. One is Kalupu, which is a self-upgrading blockchain with a forkless design. Awesome website. I'll link it down. It's just really cool. Okay. As someone that used to be in web development, I love a good website. So help me with this pronunciation, Brian. Acropolis? I think
it's Acropolis.
Right? Acropolis.
There you go.
Failed. Yep, that's a DeFi token that integrates with other DeFi tokens. DeFi. So hot right now.
Yeah.
Ocean Protocol. It's a data token, and that's all about exchanging data securely, which is pretty cool. Got a lot of cool JavaScript and Python libraries out there that I want to explore later.
Yeah, a lot of people are high on Ocean Protocol.
Oh yeah. Origin Trail blockchain protocol for supply chains. This one's pretty cool. It got an award from Walmart. You may have heard of them, and it's partnered with companies such as Oracle. You may have heard of them. Rio Chain, another DeFi token. Yeah, a lot of stuff running on here.
All right. Well, we always talk about the team behind these projects, Ross. Do you want to mention there's a big name behind Polkadot. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, maybe I should have saved my "Have you heard of him?" joke for this one. But Dr. Gavin Wood, have you heard of him? Yeah, just one of the founding members of Ethereum. Has done a lot in the crypto industry. But Solidity created that programming language used in Ethereum, and
That looks good on your resume.
looks pretty solid.
Co-founder of Ethereum and developer of Solidity. Not too bad.
Yeah, so he brings a lot of credibility to this project.
Yeah.
You put that name on it, yeah.
I mean,
I think it's good.
If you're in crypto and Dr. Gavin Wood calls, you take the call.
Oh, yeah. You put down your phone call with the mayor and you answer Gavin Wood's call.
Yeah, so he brought a lot of credibility to it, well before it was even launched and people were talking about it, and it's just been amazing. All right, let me mention quickly something about the bridges, because we talked about the relay chain that's in the middle of all the parachains. But Polkadot also uses bridges. So the parachains aren't the only way for blockchains to connect to the relay chain. So you mentioned all those projects. Those are parachains. They're sort of directly connected to the relay chain. But another way that blockchains can connect to the relay chain is through something called bridges. So, for example, like you mentioned Bitcoin or Ethereum, they're not parachains, right? They're their own blockchains, but they can connect to Polkadot by use of a bridge. So that's interesting as well. I know that ChainX is a project that's used as a bridge to Polkadot. I'm not sure actually if it's the only bridge or if there are going to be others, but ChainX, and then it's got its own token out there. I think it's PCX. I actually own a little bit.
Yeah, I remember you told me about this one.
Yeah. So I put that in a bag a while ago, and I'm just letting it sit until perhaps this project takes off. Anything more, Ross? I mean, Polkadot is very complicated. I do encourage people to who want a deeper dive to go down below and look at your links to the white paper and the light paper, because that's where they can get the more information. We can't get into all the detail on here. Anything else you wanted to add, or you want to get into final thoughts?
No, I think it's final thoughts time. But yeah, I second Brian's motion for, go look at that light paper, dive into the white paper, a lot of good stuff there and on their website. But yeah, Brian, this one, as an Ethereum and Cardano fanboy, this one scares me. It makes me want to, diversify my Ethereum holdings into this project. Yeah, it's scary. The people behind it, the parachains or dApps that are on it already, and what seems to be like an easy way to integrate to Polkadot. If you're already on Cardano or Ethereum, yeah, this one's got me wanting to move some assets that way.
Yep.
It's just skyrocketed in 2020, which just shows there's a lot of people behind it.
And in 2021, I mean, it's been going up.
Oh yeah. I mean, I will not be surprised if it doesn't, pass Ripple. Especially with what's going on with Ripple right now. But being number 3 very soon, I could see it. But yeah, this one's it's solid. I really like it. And just to mention, I don't think. This is my opinion. I don't think, Polkadot's going to dethrone Ethereum, and Polkadot's going to be the only platform out there. I think there is room for, a top 5 or 10 platforms, to run off of. But yeah, this one's definitely going to take some of Ethereum 2.0's thunder, I think. But
yeah.
I don't know. What are your final thoughts, Brian?
Well, my final thoughts are going to be brief because I don't want to repeat everything you said, but I agree with what you said, because this thing just looks like an evolution. You know what I mean? It's very impressive the way they've rolled it out. It's very impressive the way they've had interesting projects already want to be a part of it and already connect to it. I think they stubbed their toe a little bit pre-launch, with some things that were discovered on the test net kind of thing, but that's what they're for. So you can't hold that against it.
Yeah.
I mean, they've rolled it out in a very impressive fashion. My only concern, I think it's the same as yours, and that is competition. It is fierce in this market. Because with you, I put them in the same category as Ethereum and Cardano and some of these other great projects. And it's just, and I agree also, there's not going to be one winner, one man standing. It's not a zero-sum game, but as an investor in those other projects, this is an eye-opener. I feel like I need to diversify by being into this project, and I am. Mm-hmm. So it's just really interesting. But no matter what, it's a great thing it's great for crypto, and it's a great thing about the crypto world is you just keep having smart people just keep making it better. I mean, this is just a step forward. Competition is great. It's going to make everybody else up their game, and it just is good for crypto. So,
oh, absolutely. I always, in the competition in business reference, I always like to point to, if you go to New York and you have New York pizza, it's awesome. There's so many pizza shops around the corner. If you want to survive in New York, you have to make at least decent pizza. But, compared to, somewhere in Georgia or something like the rural town, one pizza shop, it's probably not going to be as good as that mediocre pizza in New York. So competition is good.
Well, maybe we'll end on the note with Polkadot, raising the bar.
Oh.
How about that?
Okay. I like the tagline.
All right, everybody. This has been another podcast from the Crypto Masters. We hope you'll come back next week.
That's right. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Get us, download us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Check us out on YouTube.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, everybody.